Alrighty, so this is the second tutorial that I've made today. But this one is about the Greatsword, and it is one of my favorite weapons of all time, and honestly, it is my personal sword of choice. Not everyone's going to like that, but I don't care because it's my sword, my video, and I'm going to make a demonstration about it if I damn well want to. It's also the one that I have the most practice with, the most experience with. This wonderful thing is, I think, exactly 5'1", which is a little bit shorter than they would be historically by about 4 inches. And for someone like me, it would have to typically be about my height, so it's about 9 inches too short. So with that immediately out of the way, this is a training sword that I made. It is a solid wrought iron bar. It has a bamboo handle, which I wrapped in a ton of tape for grip, and a solid pine handguard. It's not meant for sparring, it's meant for just practicing. And it is a lot heavier than a traditional sword, as you would expect. Unlike the historical version, which would be made out of steel, would typically be longer, but would be a lot thinner, and it would taper out, and it would usually weigh a max of 8 pounds. This monster weighs 13. It is ridiculously heavy, but that's the point of a trading sword. I am absolutely making this clear so that you can keep it in mind for the tutorial. Now, this thing is heavier but shorter, so it will function differently. Courtesy of how your arms work, it will not change the effectiveness of the sword if it is your height. In fact, if anything, it'll make it more effective. The way you're supposed to swing these things is not like a typical weapon. You wouldn't swing it the same way you would swing a sword because it is not meant for single one-on-one duels. It's not meant for self-defense. It is meant to keep people out of a certain location, and it's meant to fight pikes. It is heavy. Unlike a longsword, you will get tired from swinging this thing around. I have a lot of experience. I do have some pretty strong shoulders, but I would not want to swing this absolute monster around with 1 or 2 hands at all like I would a normal sword, because it's exhausting. I mean, like, this sword alone weighs, I think, 4 times as much as my longsword, a little closer to 3 if we count the scabbard, but this, like, you can notice the immediate difference, and this thing is blade heavy. It is not meant to be wielded like a longsword, despite these similar designs. So, because most people don't know how to use a greatsword and just assume that it is a hulking brute from the Dark Ages, quoting Sellsword Art's great YouTube channel, I absolutely suggest checking them out if you really like sword stuff. They provide better advice. So point being, you don't swing this like you would a typical sword, and you won't take the same foot stance as you would with a typical sword, because it is not the same sword. You're going to get a wide stance, 1 foot pointed forward, and then the other foot kind of pointed in whatever direction you need to move in, and it is a lot more dynamic, so you have to focus really heavily on what your opponent is doing and what you need to be doing. Typically, you'd be fighting a crowd, or you'd be fending off polearms, and if you're doing either of those things, you will need to take a different approach. It is extremely dynamic, and it is extremely versatile, but it's also very situational, I'd say. Because you're not going to be carrying this thing around anywhere, because it's huge. Like, it's not even just the weight. Even if it was lighter, it's huge. You're not carrying it with you everywhere. You're guarding a location, or you're trying to take on a pike formation. So, if you're trying to take on pikes, you lift the sword up, and you keep it close to your body. So what I'm doing right now is I'm bracing it against myself in a form that with German longswording would be called Flug. And what it is bracing with your body. It gives you the most control and the most strength in the bind and with blocking. If someone hits your sword while you are in Flug, it is not moving because your entire body is against them. So when you're fighting pikes, you have the strength advantage here. You have the weight advantage, and you have the leverage advantage. Utilize it. You press in Flug to offset the pike, or you take a typical sword approach and swing down at the head, which will force the entire pike down, or even break it, considering most of them were hollow. So, when you're swinging this in general, though, you're not going to be swinging it like this, you're not going to be swinging it like that. Even with your hips involved, you're not swinging it like a normal sword. What you do is you use its weight and its mass for its intended purpose. You spin with it. Now, at speed, it's a lot faster, but I'm not doing that because I'm worried I'll hit something and break it, and that's a no-no, because I'm not fixing any of this right now. So, when you're swinging it, you are utilizing its mass. and its weight to spin it more effectively. Like, you can notice a distinct and a massive effort difference there. This is how I would swing it if it was a long sword. It is slow if I do that. It is heavy and it's exhausting. But if I swing it like this, I'm not getting tired. Like, it'll take a minute, and if people are attacking you, they're gonna back off when you do that, which gives you the opportunity to stop and post up again. And if they approach, you put on the gas again. It is an incredibly effective weapon at not letting anyone anywhere near where you want them to avoid. It's an amazing, amazing location barrier. Because quite frankly, no one wants to get hit with this thing. In a civil capacity, you have the biggest stick. No one's getting through that, and no one's trying to duel you. So keep that in mind when you're using one of these things. It is not a sword that you can use like a typical sword. It is an absolute monster. It's a weird mix between a polearm and a sword, and I absolutely adore this thing. It's great. So we've got the footwork out of the way where it is dynamic, but you keep a wide stance the entire time, so you can do more sweeping motions. Right? Dynamic stance. Separately, if you are going to use a sword like this, you do need to stretch beforehand. You will hurt yourself otherwise because of just how wide the motions are. So, typical things, right? I'm just going to run you through some basic stretches because it's important, and I forgot to do it at the beginning of the video, and I'm not taking another shot at this. So, first things first, raise your arms up. Stretch them above your head. Keep your hands together. Really loosen up those shoulders. Put your arms behind your back. Raise them as high as you can go and bend forward. You don't need a ton of stretching in your legs, but I still suggest doing it just because it's handy. But mainly focus on stretching your shoulders and your pecs. You just want this area to be nice and loosened up so you don't accidentally hurt yourself. Really important to do. I did it before the video. I just forgot to take a video of me doing it. So, point being, wide sweeping arcs use its weight. If you need to, up the gas. And just remember, down for momentum to keep it spinning, and up to stop. Because if all that force goes up, the weapon stops. If all the force goes down, the weapon has to keep rotating, because that's how gravity works. Use it to your advantage. And now the last thing I'm going to get into, holding it by this little handle bit here, because most of them will have a secondary crossguard, which is much smaller, but typically right around here, so you can hold it in closer range. And I want you to notice that the second that you do that, your effective reach turns into what exactly? The effective reach of a longsword. So, I was incorrect earlier. You can in fact use a greatsword like a longsword, but with more handle room, so you get even more leverage. This is just shoulders. Like, if you use your hips, you can just... That's great. Greatswords are amazing. I love these things. More people should use them, and more people should know about them. This particular one is based on the montante, which is the Italian word for the sword. The Spanish version, which is almost identical, is called the spadone. It's really interesting how the same sword has two different names while remaining the exact same sword. It was developed twice in two different locations. I love that. History is great. But now you know how to use a greatsword. Wide foot stance, wide sweeping arcs, use the momentum and the weight of the blade. If you're surrounded, do some spins. You have the ability to do that because no one wants to get close to you. Alrighty, well that's the end of the video. Bye-bye.